They didn't stop coming because of a natural disaster. They didn't boycott with banners or social media campaigns. They just stopped showing up. Quietly.
Consistently.
And across America in 2025, that silence has become too loud to ignore. From the neon lights of Times Square to the calm trails of Yellowstone, tourist traffic is disappearing in plain sight. Flights are going unbooked. Hotels are offering steep discounts just to fill rooms. Tour guides, drivers, restaurant staff. Entire industries built on global foot traffic are watching their livelihoods erode with every passing month. And while the rest of the world seems to be bouncing back from the pandemic-era slump, America is going the other way. According to the latest industry projections, the U.S. is on track to lose as much as $100 billion in international tourism revenue in 2025 alone. That number isn't speculative. It's rooted in real-world data. Declining arrivals, massive booking cancellations, and the quiet yet devastating shift of global travelers redirecting their plans away from the United States. But this story isn't just about numbers. It's about perception, reputation, and a growing unease among travelers who once saw America as a must-visit destination and now view it as a risky, unpredictable bet. To understand how we got here, let's look at a case that made international headlines earlier this year. Two young German women, Lisa and Carla, both recent college graduates, saved for over a year to take what they hoped would be the trip of a lifetime, 5 weeks in Hawaii. They secured their USDA travel authorization, booked most of their accommodations, and landed in Honolulu with valid paperwork and genuine excitement. But instead of being greeted with hospitality, they were stopped by U.S. Customs and Border Protection, questioned for hours, and ultimately detained. Officials decided their travel plans weren't specific enough, despite having return tickets and evidence of financial support. They were held overnight and deported the next day, without stepping outside the airport. They had committed no crime. They weren't flagged for any security threat. But their story quickly became viral in Germany, not just because of the incident itself, but because it confirmed what many Europeans were already beginning to feel. America no longer feels like a safe bet. And that's the crux of the problem. It's not that the United States has become dangerous in the way a war zone is dangerous. It's the sense that the rules have become unclear, that the welcome mat has been pulled back without warning, that a trip to the U.S. no longer guarantees discovery, but instead offers the chance of being detained, humiliated, or sent home without explanation. And travelers don't like gambling with their dignity. This isn't just anecdotal. In fact, data from U.S. travel and airline reporting agencies show that bookings from Germany have dropped by over 22% year-over-year. Canada, the United States' biggest source of international visitors, has seen a staggering 70% drop in border crossings and air travel. Airlines have responded by slashing over 400,000 seats from their U.S.-bound routes. And that's just between February and May. The trend is clear. Fewer people are coming. And those who once visited regularly are now choosing other destinations. Places they feel more certain about. Places where they don't have to wonder if a border agent will decide their trip doesn't look complete enough. While most Americans go about their daily lives unaware, the disappearance of international tourists is reshaping entire communities beneath the radar. And unlike sudden shocks that make headlines, this shift is happening slowly. So slowly that many won't realize what's been lost until it's gone. But the signs are everywhere if you know where to look. Take Jackson, Wyoming, for example. A small town on the edge of Grand Teton National Park, known for its scenic views, rustic charm, and upscale ski resorts. In a normal year, it thrives on international tourism. Visitors from France, Germany, Canada, and Japan come to experience the wild, open frontier. They book nature tours, eat at locally owned bistros, buy handmade crafts, and fill lodges that keep the town's economy afloat. But this year, something changed. Local business owners started noticing reservations drying up by January. One by one, international bookings disappeared. By March, nearly 60% of expected seasonal revenue had been wiped out. Tour operators laid off staff. Restaurants closed for lunch shifts to cut labor costs. Souvenir shops that once stayed open until 10 p.m. now shut by 6. It's like someone unplugged the power cord, said one shopkeeper. People didn't stop coming all at once. They just stopped showing up in the numbers we need to survive. The impact isn't just economic, it's emotional. Communities that pride themselves on being welcoming and connected to the world now feel isolated, overlooked. And for many of these towns, the collapse of international tourism doesn't just mean leaner profits. It means the potential death of a way of life. According to the American Hotel and Lodging Association, more than 55% of small and mid-sized hotels report losing international business at a rate they've never seen before. And this matters because international tourists spend, on average, more than double what domestic travelers do. They stay longer, book higher-end rooms, and spend more in local economies. Losing them isn't just a setback. It's a structural crisis. In economic terms, it's like pulling a foundational beam out of a building. Everything starts to sag. And the longer that beam remains missing, the harder it becomes to keep the rest of the structure intact. And yet, despite the warning signs, there's still no coordinated federal response. No emergency task force. No national campaign to rebuild trust or confidence. Instead, responsibility has fallen, once again, on the shoulders of state and local governments, many of which are already overstretched. This leads us to the second story. A story not of travelers, but of Americans watching their livelihoods slip away. A real-life event that happened recently, Savannah has long been a favorite for European tourists. Its cobblestone streets, historic squares, and rich Southern architecture make it a must-see for travelers wanting a taste of old-world America. But in 2025, hotelier Marcus Campbell is facing a problem he's never dealt with in over 20 years of business: silence. In the past, you'd hear French being spoken in the lobby, German around the breakfast tables, sometimes even Portuguese or Dutch, Marcus says. Now, it's just quiet. Too quiet. Marcus runs a boutique inn that usually caters to couples and retirees from abroad. But bookings have plummeted. And while domestic tourism has held up slightly better, it doesn't fill the same gap. International visitors would book 2 weeks. Now we get weekenders if we're lucky. What's worse, Marcus has started canceling staff shifts. The woman who handled breakfast each morning? Let go. The concierge who spoke fluent Spanish and helped guests navigate the city? Hours slashed. He's down to a skeleton crew trying to keep the lights on. We're not just losing tourists, he says. We're losing the soul of the business. And he's not alone. The Savannah Tourism Board reports a 48% drop in international visitation since last summer. Tour guides, many of whom are licensed and trained in multiple languages, are now driving Uber to make ends meet. Riverboat cruise companies are slashing routes. Shops in the historic district are offering steep discounts just to attract foot traffic. The city hasn't collapsed, but it's slowly deflating, losing pressure, losing energy. For places like Savannah, tourism isn't just seasonal income. It's identity. And as that identity fades, so does the city's influence, pride, and economic resilience. There's another layer to this crisis, one that can't be measured in dollars, but may prove even more costly in the long run: the erosion of America's soft power. For decades, visiting the United States wasn't just about vacations. It was an experience that connected people to American culture, ideals, and way of life. Millions of international tourists returned home each year with stories that reinforced the American brand: the friendliness of locals, the diversity of the people, the vastness of the landscape, the energy of its cities. These informal ambassadors helped shape positive perceptions of the U.S. abroad. They told friends and family that America was worth seeing, worth trusting, worth aspiring toward. This form of diplomacy, person-to-person, organic, unscripted, was powerful. And now it's slipping away. When international travelers stay away, they aren't just skipping a vacation. They're missing the opportunity to engage with American people, values, and stories in a personal way. The absence of these exchanges has ripple effects. It reduces cultural understanding. It fosters misinformation. It allows stereotypes and fears to take root unchallenged. A recent study by the Pew Research Center shows that favorable views of the U.S. have declined in several key tourism markets, including Canada, Germany, and South Korea. And while part of this is driven by political tensions, another major factor is the reduced personal connection. People who don't visit are less likely to understand or empathize. And that matters, especially in a world where global competition is heating up and international loyalty can shift quickly. Competitor nations have noticed. Countries like Mexico, Italy, Thailand, and Japan have ramped up their tourism diplomacy. They're offering streamlined visas, digital nomad incentives, and targeted campaigns that emphasize ease, safety, and hospitality. They're not just selling beaches and landmarks. They're selling national image, and they're winning. Meanwhile, America is doing the opposite. Visa delays are stretching for months. Airport customs experiences are inconsistent and, at times, hostile. And there's no unified message of welcome. The silence isn't just on the streets. It's at the national level, too. As America's tourism numbers continue their steep decline, what's becoming increasingly clear is that the country is not responding with unity or urgency. Instead, there's a growing disconnect between Washington and the states that depend on global visitors for survival. The federal government maintains a largely dismissive stance, issuing statements that downplay the impact, questioning the data, and insisting the downturn is temporary. But in states like California, New York, Florida, and even in quiet towns across Montana and Vermont, the story on the ground is very different. These places aren't waiting for permission to act. They're taking matters into their own hands, launching their own diplomatic campaigns, and doing whatever they can to preserve what's left of their tourism identity. California, for instance, has gone far beyond traditional marketing. Governor Gavin Newsom has personally appealed to Canadian and European travelers in press events, cultural exchange visits, and in interviews with international media. His message is clear. California is not DC. California still welcomes you. From California Loves Canada billboards in Toronto to multilingual ad campaigns targeting hesitant European travelers, the state is trying to distance itself from the cold, chaotic tone that's come to define America's global image. In Illinois, tourism boards have invested in new visitor assurance programs, offering support lines and concierge services that help foreign travelers feel safer and better informed. In places like Oregon and Massachusetts, partnerships with foreign consulates are being strengthened to reassure incoming travelers that their visits will be smooth, respectful, and dignified. But no matter how hard these local leaders try, they are constantly working against a tide of federal narratives and policies that send the opposite message. When a country's external messaging contradicts what visitors actually experience, confusion and mistrust follow. For international travelers, that uncertainty becomes a risk factor. And tourism, like investment or diplomacy, is built on trust. You don't spend thousands of dollars, fly across oceans, and place your vacation in the hands of a country you don't trust to treat you fairly. That brings us to one of the most overlooked yet critical elements of this collapse: tourism loyalty. For decades, America benefited from a strong base of repeat international travelers, people who returned year after year, sometimes to the same cities, the same hotels, the same beach towns. Families that built traditions around annual visits to Disney World, couples who marked anniversaries in Napa Valley, adventurers who made the Grand Canyon a lifelong goal. That loyalty translated into more than just consistent revenue. It represented a kind of international intimacy, a shared rhythm between Americans and the world. But loyalty is fragile. And once it breaks, it rarely snaps back into place. Today, countries like Mexico are seeing a surge in travelers from Canada and Europe. Visitors who might once have chosen the U.S. but now opt for destinations with fewer border complications and more cultural openness. Paris, Rome, Barcelona, already popular, are posting record-breaking numbers as travelers redirect their vacation budgets. Southeast Asia, especially Thailand and Vietnam, is positioning itself as a warm, safe, and welcoming alternative for long-haul travelers. These aren't just passing trends. They're habit-shaping shifts. When travelers discover new places that meet their needs without the emotional and logistical baggage of traveling to the US, they start building new memories, new traditions. And once those new patterns are set, getting them to return becomes exponentially harder. Industry experts warn that while some international markets might bounce back over time, others may be permanently lost. For example, if a Canadian family takes 3 trips to Mexico in the next 5 years instead of 1 trip to Florida every year, they're not just changing plans, they're replacing emotional connections. And once those bonds are formed elsewhere, the US fades further into the background. All of this compounds into a bigger, more troubling reality. America is losing its role not just as a travel destination, but as a cultural leader. Fewer visits mean fewer opportunities for people to encounter American values, speak with everyday Americans, learn about U.S. history from within its borders, or engage with its diversity firsthand. And fewer of those interactions mean fewer global citizens will carry positive stories back home. That's how soft power fades, not with a bang, but with a quiet withdrawal. So, where does that leave us? It leaves America at a crossroads. One path leads to continued decline, an era in which the U.S. becomes more isolated, more suspicious of visitors, and more forgotten in the hearts of global travelers. The other path requires serious, coordinated effort. It would mean reforming visa processes, training border agents to emphasize dignity and professionalism, launching major international campaigns to repair public perception, and most importantly, listening to what the world is saying, even if it's speaking through silence. But time is not on America's side. Every year that passes without action makes the repair work harder. Every season that goes by with fewer visitors increases the distance between the U.S. and the world it once welcomed. The longer the silence continues, the louder the message becomes. This isn't just about money. It's not just about empty hotel rooms or idle taxi stands. This is about trust, how much of it remains, how quickly it's fading, and how hard it will be to earn back once it's lost. It's about whether the United States still sees itself as part of a global community or whether its content to be viewed with hesitation and avoided with quiet resolve. In the end, every missed flight, every canceled trip, every deleted booking is a message. It says, we don't feel safe. We don't feel wanted. We don't feel welcome. And if that message keeps repeating, America won't just lose tourists. It will lose something much greater. Its place in the global imagination as a destination worth the journey. Because once the world stops showing up, once it learns to stay away, promises won't be enough to bring them back. And if America fails to hear that now, it may not get another chance. If you found this video eye-opening, make sure to subscribe for more in-depth stories that uncover what's really happening beneath the headlines. Like the video to help more people see it and share it with someone who needs to understand the full picture.